Back with another episode of Circle of Trades. I'm Todd Studer, and in the virtual studio, Travis Waldstein, Air Serv Heating and Air Conditioning, and Waldstein Plumbing. Good to see you, sir. Glad that you were able to take some time and jump on to record, because it's kind of a special episode today that we are recording. You have made it all the way to number 100.
There you go. So hopefully Iowa's offense will get more than 100 yards of passing on Saturday night, too. So, hey, we even accomplished something Iowa hasn't done yet this year.
Now it's just wishful thinking. Do you want to talk about the Cyhawk game? You were there. It was.
It's been beat to death. So
yeah,
I mean, our passing game still sucks. Our wide receivers, our problem. I think the quarterback's better. I think there's challenges there. So it's just time to move on to something else. So it's all good. Packers play the Redskins tonight, or the Commanders, excuse me.
Yeah, as we're recording, the Thursday night game is Packers Commanders, and Packers look good in the first game.
Mm-hmm.
Washington has a solid team.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting game. I think it'd be a really good game, actually. So, be a good gauge for both teams, and that's going to have playoff ramifications no matter what happens tonight. So, it's going to be interesting. I think Washington. I like a lot of what they're doing right now. So, and I'm not a Redskins fan, by the way, but it is what it is. So, but be interesting. So,
well, we kind of started this show without any real hard direction about what way to go with this. There's a lot of things going on locally. There's things going on nationally and internationally. And of course, as we are recording this, today is September 11th, which is now Patriots Day.
Yep.
And it's an important day to remember. I know where I was. I know exactly what I was doing when I heard about it. I didn't see the video. I was working that day, and I didn't see the video of the buildings falling until after I was done with work, and it seriously affected me. Yeah. I mean, it was.
That 2001. We tried moving back to Spencer first summer, and I was actually at Denny and Linda Adams' house, and they live in rural Webb, Iowa, and they were a quarter mile from my old original farmstead where my parents owned. So they knew me from the time I was 2 years old or whatever. So, and literally I'm there fixing their furnace, and she yelled at me, "Hey, the World Trade Center got hit." It's like, what? So I go upstairs and going on. Then a few minutes later, the other building got hit. It's like, well, that was not an accident, obviously. And, the chaos. And at that time, the Clay County Fair was going on. And, my wife was actually working down here at Jenny on the weekends. And she came home, and Harley and Hayden were 3 years old at that time. And I'll never forget, we went to the Clay County Fair that night. And, Clay County Fair usually has between 10,000 and 20,000 people a day. I mean, it's the biggest county fair, around, I think in the county fair, they biggest in the country. And it's right there, the biggest state fairs in the country. And you walked around and there wasn't 100 people out there. I mean, I remember walking, it was bare. And, didn't know who, what, where, and that changed everything, for God, a decade plus. I mean, we're still dealing with the ramifications of September 11th and how it changed and affected the country, affected the presidency, and 3,000 people lost their life that day. And unfortunately, it was a much different time than it was today. I mean, social media wasn't what it was. I mean, it was out there. It was just.
I think MySpace was just coming on back then.
There was. You didn't have Facebook. You didn't have Instagram. You didn't have X. You didn't have any of that stuff out there. So basically, you're watching CNN or NBC or Fox or whatever your station of choice was, and that's how we got the news. And it was. I won't say a simpler time because that was really a time for transition in our country. I remember it. plan his day. And you kind of fast forward to the events today. Obviously, there's a lot of memorials. I know I drove through. I was up in Avoca this morning. Stopped at Radberry's in Avoca, grabbed lunch. It was excellent, by the way. Um, you got a bakery and stuff on the south end of the main street there in Avoca. Um, but coming back through Carson, there was all these American flags. I didn't even think about being Patriots Day. It's September 11th, but there's flags in town, and now flags are at half staff because what happened with Charlie Kirk yesterday, and it just, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. The world is getting crazier, and it seems like you know, I sit here in one hand as a business owner and trying to bring people into the trades and start careers and spend money on training and trying to help younger people get into a better space, whether in the trades or not in the trades. And we talk about, what we do and our services we offer. But then, there's you got to remember there's a human side to everything. Um, yeah. And, the events of yesterday probably helped today hit home a little bit more. And it's like, you know, we try to promote these stuff, but then at the same time, we'll spend hours on social media tearing each other down. And, the right's bad, the left's bad, this sucks, and nobody wants to put a commitment or feeling down there because you might alienate half the country. Well, guess what? You're going to alienate half the country no matter what you think. So, um, you know, and I kind of, after everything's happened yesterday and this morning, thing about it's like, you know, why do we have to be so negative? Now, I love to give Husker fans a bad time. Everybody knows that. So, um, and sometimes I get great joy in doing it, but you know, it is tease and half fun, whatever. But I just, I'm having a hard time. It's like, that didn't need to happen. There was another school shooting here recently. You keep hearing about this stuff. You get people that are going on social media and say, I hate this and I hate that. And, then you get 10,000 people going and, basically, demolishing the person's career. And it's like, or livelihood. I'm like, is that what we're going to as a society? Is that, we're just gonna ruin somebody if they have an opinion that doesn't agree with me. We're gonna ruin somebody because they have a different set of values than what I do. Are we gonna, this our country was not founded like that. I think the spirit of this country is that we have individualism, we have freedoms, we have creativity, but we spend so much time worried about sound bites, and and if you have a conviction, you're polarizing. Well, I'm really having a hard time putting my hand around where I feel the country's at this point. And you and me were talking beforehand. I've got some concern. I not only as a business owner and the employees that I got. I'm always worried about that in jobs, but not as a country, but as a society where we're at. And I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on. I mean, it's I don't know. It's a mess, and you know, how much more, how much more of this is going to happen before it turns into, civil war or martial law or, some crazy stuff. I just, and, whether you're for guns or against guns, I just, can't we do better? That's what I woke up saying this morning. Thinking, what can we not do better as a society than what we've been doing the last few years? Why why can't a guy go out and have a debate on a college and have with a friend 5,000 students and not worry about getting shot at? Why does the president of the United States have to go out to have to have extra security in Pennsylvania because someone tried to shoot his ear off? Why should we have to have to worry about our kids going to school because someone's going to cyberbully him to death, or talk negative about him? What why you talked a little bit about homelessness earlier. Why is human trafficking such a thing in this country? And you're just like, for all the good, there's a lot of bad. And it's like, I'd like to think good's going to prevail, but there's some days that just make you wonder, you know, and I don't know. That's where my thoughts at for today, Todd. It's like, we can do better. I don't care if you're religious or not religious. Anybody that knows me, I believe there. If you're a religious person, that's fine. That's great. I'm not the most religious person out there. I respect anybody that does, and I 100% support your right to be able to be that way. But you know, I think it's more than religion. You just got so many things pulling at people, and so many side venues where you could get pulled off to. And to me is, can we be decent and civil and get along? I just and be better as a society. I just really kind of shake my head, and it kind of makes me wonder about where we're going as a country today. So I mean, it's kind of a somber deal for set 100, but it got me wondering today. And my whole thing was this, you know what? I'm sad about the events the last couple of days, and well, but let's try to go have a positive day today.
You have known me now for several years. We've sat and we've done a lot of interviews. I've interviewed you. You've actually interviewed me.
Yeah.
We've gone back and forth. You know how I feel about politics and how I avoid it publicly.
Yeah. Until I drag you into it. It's all good. It's all good. So.
Exactly. However, and I don't think this is really a political statement as a more a societal statement, that I personally am going to point the finger a couple of different directions here. Number one, I'm going to point it at these algorithms that have been built on social media and online and everything else, whether it be the feed that you get from Google News or whatever, because it's going to keep sending you things it believes you want to see. And these algorithms are very, very sophisticated. Yep. So what ends up happening is we all live in an echo chamber. We all hear and see the same things that already align with what it is that we think we know. So that in our own minds confirms what we believe that we know. And that is where the division is coming from. That is why we have such polarizing opinions that both sides are 100% convinced they are right, because that's all that they are seeing. They're not being exposed to differing opinions or a respectful opinion. The other thing is the media. And I don't care what media outlet you want to watch, they're all doing it. Yeah. Because what they have discovered is that outrage and divisiveness equals clicks, equals views, and equals more ad revenue. Listen, I'm sorry. I know that the right wants to say that MSNBC is trying to change the culture to the left. No, they're not. They're trying to make money off of you. Same with Fox going to the right. They want to make money off of you. And that is what everyone is falling for. And because they live in this echo chamber all the time, they think that they are right. And then once that happens, then you start to think like this apparently young man who is, as we are talking, is being chased by authorities for shooting Charlie Kirk. I 100% believed that he was right in doing what he did for the greater society good. Yeah. Because he lived in that echo chamber, and because the media pushed that out there all the time, and the algorithms online pushed that out there and kept him seeing the same thing over and over again. What's the answer? I don't know, because it's still unregulated. The internet and what is put out there, I mean, Elon Musk bought Twitter, changed it to X so it could be a completely free form. And I understand people's freedoms. But if the algorithm is attached to that, and that's all that you see, now you believe that this is what's right because you keep getting confirmed with that. And the next thing you know, it starts to breed violence. And I am I'm tired. Yeah, I'm just so tired.
Here's what everybody forgets. There's a couple things everybody forgets, and this is three things that I thought about. Everybody always talks about their rights. I have rights. I got rights. Okay, what about your responsibility? You know,
Hmm.
I mean, we everybody talks about their rights, but I spend thousands and thousands of dollars a year in liability insurance. So that way, if something happens, if we blow up something, or if we hit something or whatever, that I'm covered. I'm not going to lose everything, if that makes sense. So so that is something that happens. Um, so that's number one. you know Number two, and you're seeing this more, and my kids start getting exposed to it. I mean, when you've got, and I'm not against, I'm a big sports buff. I love football. I don't love baseball as much as too. I love wrestling. But you know used to be that families would come home, and I'm not saying every family, but a lot of most families would come home, and there would be time at the dinner table each day to where you know you were a family, if that makes sense. You sat down as a family. That doesn't happen today. It does not happen like it used to. Now, you don't have the daily sit down at supper time or breakfast time, whatever it is, to kind of discuss the issues that are going on. And I think that, and, right, wrong, and different, I think, I'm not saying it was that way for her, but I do think, that is an issue, that we don't speak. And here's the third thing, we talked about earlier, there's a city council contest and an election going on here right now that's kind of contentious. Uh, you know, there's a candidate, Brandy Van Reason. She's candidate. She's run for city council. City council, good for her. And anybody that wants to do is great. You know, I asked her a couple questions, but then I had to stop myself after some conversation. Is like, I need to ask the question of everybody if I'm going to ask her. I said, number one. But number two, you know what I did? I said, I went down to her office the next day, and I talked to her for 10 minutes and said, hey, I'm sorry. I apologize. I came across as whatever, but I said, this is what I would like to see. Okay, for you, want to run for again? What do you stand behind? And she says, well, I'm still evaluating. And listen, that's her position, and that's fine. I talked with Brandon Garrett. He said, the mayor's number one person. He's the chief of staff for City Council Plus sake. You know, Good guy. Politically, him and me are not on the same page, and that's okay. But he ran me down last week, and he talked to me a little bit. And then we sat there at the chamber. You were talking this morning, and I talked to him for 10 minutes. You know, you can disagree, but do we have to shout at each other? We can have a conversation. And I think so many people have become keyboard warriors, or Instagram and Twitter or Facebook. You know what they don't do? They don't go out in public and have the conversation. There's very few people that are acting like they do in public, like they do when they're behind a keyboard.
Oh, and,
Well,
and you and I have talked about this too, that, have you ever seen the comment anywhere online? Wow, I never looked at it that way. I see your point. Have you ever seen that?
you don't.
All people want to do is argue so they can get like-minded people to pat them on the back.
Mm-hmm.
And the folks in charge of the internet figured this out a long time ago, that when we feed you stuff that it already feeds into what you believe now,
Mm-hmm.
you click on it more.
Absolutely. So, and that's the thing. I think there needs to be conversations. There needs to be compromise. I think we're spending so much time chasing our tail, and we're chasing the American dream. We want to be the superstar. We want to be the CEO of the company. We want to do this, and you know, I, and listen, not everybody can be the CEO of the company. Not everybody can be the CEO of the superstar. Not everybody can be whatever. I mean, you need people like yourself and me, and maybe we're not the best examples. Hey, you just got to go out, work hard, play hard, and just try to be decent people. Am I perfect? Oh, heck no, I'm not perfect. Don't worry. I could probably pick myself apart better than most people, and I'll own it, and so, um, yeah, so yeah, it's this whole deal the last few days with just everything that's kind of going on, and just the feelings kind of got me thinking, kind of got me stepping back. And I'm on social media for work, and Lord knows I will put certain things out there, but it's got me saying, maybe it's just time to step away from that craziness for a while, and you know not worry about it.
Well, and it's okay to learn something and to change your mind about something. Case in point, when I was a kid, I was a Cowboys fan.
I'm sorry.
And then Jerry Jones came along and fired Tom Landry, and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
I have seen a picture of you in a Bears jersey.
Yes.
You changed your mind. You
Yeah,
would say that you wised up.
I wised up, got a hell of a lot smarter, despite what my cousin Steve says. So,
Right.
yeah.
So it's okay to have different beliefs. I remember I was talking to somebody once, and she said that she had gone to her class reunion or something, and she hadn't seen anybody in 10 years. And somebody said, "Wow, you sure have changed." And her response was, "Well, why wouldn't I have? It was 10 years ago." We're
Yeah.
all growing. We're all learning. We're all evolving. We should be different than we are then. But this echo chamber that we're living in now doesn't create that. All it does is cement things in. And we want to know and believe that we're right because it feels good.
It always feels good to be right, but
Yeah.
you
But
learn a hell of a lot more from being wrong, getting your teeth kicked in, than you are going to being right all the time. So
it depends. If your goal is to learn, then you need to fail. If your goal is to succeed, then being right, so that's, but my goal is to be a little better today than I was yesterday.
yeah. So,
And as long as I'm making that forward progress, I don't care how big that step is.
well, I said this morning, and this is a guy who used to work for me, and you think about that, the thing that she always say, the thing that will make you laugh can also make you cry.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, the thing that you stand behind and your beliefs in, which you'll put your stake in the ground that you're going to live your beliefs on, could let you down and can potentially kill you. I mean, and you never know what the reason's going to be or why. Like I said, everybody's right from their own perspective. We can sit there and say, "Oh, this person's a terrible person," or this or that, but is it my job to judge? I mean, last time I said it, it doesn't say judge, jury, executioner on my shirt or anywhere else. And so, this isn't the 1820s. This isn't cowboy country. We're a country of laws, whether you like them or not. Or what political parties run and stuff. So, and that's why I said I think our country really needs to take a step back. Or to your point, we talked about earlier, civil war cannot be that good up. And here's what I'll tell everybody: be careful what you wish for,
Mm-hmm.
because you might get what you wish for, and you might have unintended consequences. You know, and hindsight's always 2020. What if I did this? What if I did that? So, and so sometimes you have to make change. Sometimes you have to adjust. But I think sometimes you really need to take a look at your source. It's like, okay, how bad is it really for you today? And there's some people that are some pretty dire straits, and frankly, they can be some of the most positive people I know out there. I think, I think there's some people that need to sit back and reflect, and you know, I don't know, maybe instead of before they run their trap, and of course I run my trap today, so I'll call myself out for that. Sit back and really reflect. If that was, it's easy to say, well, if this guy, well, if it was your brother or sister or father or mother or whatever, would you have the same perspective? I mean, talk about term limits. I brought this up earlier today, and I'll say it. Talk about city council election. I believe there should be 8 years as mayor. And they can, he can run as many terms as he want. And then I think I actually says, okay, put Donald Trump's name in front of that. What's one of the biggest arguments we're having in this country right now? Nobody wants them to have more than 2 terms. We have 2 terms for a reason. And so you're only as right until you change the name or you change the narrative a little bit. And oh my God, we can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like but then there's half the people that will 100% disagree with you. I mean, go to the Iowa State game last week. I mean, like I said, 70% of the state was Iowa State, and probably 25-30% was Iowa. They're not going to agree. I think red tractors are great. I think red tractors suck. But I mean, pick your battles, folks. I mean, realistically, pick your battles. Um, I don't know. So, Yeah, it's kind of somber. It's 100 episodes. Can't believe it's been 100 episodes, but yeah, it's yeah.
Well, just a couple of stats to let you know what you've accomplished here, Travis,
Okay.
and this is be a little bit more positive.
Okay. All
And
right.
you and I have talked about it before that 90%, 90% of the podcasts that have ever been started did not make it past episode 3.
Okay. One,
And
two.
exactly. And
Okay.
because they found out that it's work.
Uh huh.
And the other stat is if you want to have a podcast that's in the top 1%, make it past episode 21.
Well, I may have passed them.
You blew that right out of the water. Listen, this is you've seen value in this past just how many downloads and views you happen to get for that one particular day. You have made great business contacts
Yeah.
out of this. You've made friendships out
Uh
of
huh.
having this.
Couple
Uh,
enemies too, but mostly friendships. It's okay. It's
you
all
have
good.
you've been able to create something that did not exist before,
Mm-hmm.
and it's my belief is that it has created a better leadership platform for you,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so many reasons behind having one of these things, and I think that you're living proof of that.
Mm-hmm.
That what it can do, and it's. I think that it's helped with your public speaking. You've
Mm-hmm.
always been good and outspoken, but I'm saying that by doing this, I think it actually made you a little more diplomatic
Ooh.
because you've listened to so many different people and so many different viewpoints,
Mm-hmm.
and listened to concrete workers. You've listened to uh, water treatment plant workers,
Mm-hmm.
florists, all of these different people that you have brought on this show has an effect,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a way to have those conversations that you have been talking about. Listen to people, hear what they have to say,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm grateful that you let me come along for the ride.
There you go. Yeah, you know, gotta have someone to keep me in line. So I do have one thing I do want to talk about that was actually positive last week.
Okay.
Last Thursday morning, usually our CBBC meets on Thursdays, but last Thursday, um, Iowa Western. I don't everybody fall over because Lord knows I've been critical of Iowa Western. So, but we went out to. They had a continuing education and business deal out at their campus in the Luft building or Loft, Luft. I don't know. I don't ask me. So they did that where they had people in their, like they're not accredited, like their CDL apprenticeship stuff, and they had some people out there, and they had Dan Cuny, the president, out there. Uh, you know, like I said, there were some city officials out there, but there were a bunch of people in our business group. Um, I I've given Iowa Western a lot of heck, and to where I want to see things improve. But the one thing we've kind of came up in conversations, we have an apprenticeship program for HVAC and plumbing, and I believe we need apprenticeship. And have had some discussions with other places, and I think that they're finally wanting to get on board with trying to get something a little bit more concrete to not only help their degree programs, but also put an apprenticeship program in place. I think that can help all students in Southwest Iowa that work locally. That you want to have an approved apprenticeship program where you get some hands-on, um, and we've had some good dialogue. And one of the things that I've had a discussion with them is, as I said, we need to get more contractors on, and I think they're out there. And this is why I bring this up. I think they're out there. Number one. Number two, we can sit there and bitch and just like top bitch and point fingers. This guy's an ass. All this other stuff. Well, sometimes instead of pointing a finger, tell someone what they need to do. It's kind of one of the maybe you need to jump in and be part of the solution. It's kind of it's like my thing at work says, "Oh, you got a great idea on this? Oh, well, guess what? You got volunteered." You know what I'm saying? So you um, but yeah, so I've actually have been pushing them a little bit, and it sounds like they're receptive and they're wanting to get some stuff done. They're working with the Department of Labor as far as with their programs where they could do that. So I'm actually nothing concrete yet. I know they're shooting to maybe to try to have the programs in place by January 1, but I'm not going to make that commitment for them. There's some stuff they got to work through as far as that is concerned, and what that's going to look like, and who the instructors are going to be and whatnot. But I'm pretty excited, and I'm that they're actually want to get on board. But my thing is, I want the tradespeople, the contractors, the owners, the employees that want to get their license and certification. This isn't Travis Waldstein's program. It's not. I don't believe it. I believe it's much bigger than that as far as an industry goes. And so I'm hoping that we get some contractors, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, any of these that want to have program, get involved and say, hey, you know what? We'd like to see these kinds of programs, but it's like, hey, you got to do this. Well, maybe some of, I guess I'm going to be an old timer now, is say, hey, hey, I'd be willing to maybe help out with this program. You know what I'm saying? To train that next generation. So, pretty excited about the conversation. I hope it continues to go well. Like I said, I did their CDL class this spring. I enjoyed the heck out of that CDL class. Actually, we need to get a couple more people through it, frankly, for our shop. But I'm coming around. You talk about coming around. I'm coming around on that too. And I think if they're not going to be everything for everybody. And if you're going in expecting that, that's not the way to do it. But, if you want a program to be better, if you want to be doing, they got a lot of money, but they still need people, they need processes. And, there's a lot of good contractors in this area. And honestly, if you want to train I don't want to say replacement, but the people going to be doing this 20 years down the road, you're going to have to put some time and effort into it,
So, and we talked about it before in a lot of different areas that if you want to keep homegrown talent at home, you have to be able to train these folks in how to do what you're doing. And part of the reason that you started your podcast was, I think before we ever recorded the first one, you told me the stat about what the average age of contractors is now.
Yeah, like I said, I'm technically still a young buck compared to some of the guys that are out there doing it.
And you can't and have no desire to do it forever. So
I don't know. I'm having quite a bit of fun right now, dude. I'm not sure why. Maybe because I'm sick in the head, but yeah.
But we do need that younger generation coming in behind it. And, we look at the work that Mike Rowe has been doing over the last decade or so and talking about how many jobs in the trades are currently available that go unfilled every year. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling that if you were suddenly able to double in size and staff, that the business would come.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think, for people who want to do the blue collar work. And let's be honest, you can make a ton of money getting out there and doing this kind of thing. And mm-hmm. it's strange how untapped this resource is. I mean, I went 4 years of shop class, but that stopped. I think they've realized now that it's important and it's coming back, but
there's people that thought they were smarter than you, and me said, you don't need that.
If you don't go the traditional 4-year college, you've just condemned yourself to nothing. And is it, well, wait a minute here. I think that plumbers do pretty well. I think electricians do pretty well. Yeah. Bricklayers do pretty well.
Yes, they do.
So
yeah. If you've seen the garbage that Justin Marcus drives around, you'd say they do really well. Sorry, Justin. I can't fit in any of them cars you own.
I saw a new, how it can happen when you get online and it starts feeding you videos. And I've been seeing these video shorts of somebody that is doing garbage can cleaning.
Yep.
And it's this trailer that's got it's like an internal power washer or something, and it goes up and it cleans everything, and then he sprays it down with sanitizer after it's done. And he has he's making 6 figures cleaning garbage cans.
Hey, you want to stick your head in there, clean the damn thing?
You know, no, but and I forget how long ago it was that I started seeing the signs for, hey, we'll come into your backyard and clean up after your dog, so you don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah.
These are the kind of
Patrol.
things that these kind of businesses though inspire me, because this is somebody thinking outside the box, and they're saying, here's a need, let's do it.
Look at Drake Roller with Full Metal Junket there out of Carson. He had one yesterday. I belong to Wednesday Morning Business Group. He found they had World War II, like the baseball cards.
Mm-hmm.
World War II baseball cards that he pulled out, and one was like stuff on a Soviet front line, and then the German front line, and there was different action scenes. So this guy was shot. I mean, the stuff where you kind of go to day, oh my God, I can't believe you showed that. You're gonna, my kids gonna be the same, but that was back in the day. That was kind of the thing. I mean, it was cool. It was like a 15, 16 cards, and it's like, I said, if you're a history guy, it's kind of like, well, this is really interesting. This is not one I expected to pull out of a drawer, So, and he's got a couple businesses based off of, doing that for people. So, and so, yeah, like I said, and there's a lot of positive, and we're helping people in the process. So,
and there's a need around here. There's a need for what Drake is doing. He found a need to fill in an area inside of the more rural communities that didn't have any cleanup companies to come in and take care of that kind of thing. I'm optimistic as I've seen the growth that's happening in the smaller communities around Council Bluffs. I'm optimistic about what's happening in Council Bluffs. I see the growth that we're getting. We've got a long way to go. We got to fix this housing problem we have, but I do see progress, and I'm encouraged by that.
Now we just need to get Jamie Bush to get a T-shirt my size so I can buy something for her boutique shop.
She has one. It's called a tent.
Council Bluffs tent on, and there you go, baby.
Well, listen, Travis, congratulations on 100 shows. That's no small feat, and you've just kept grinding, and you've had some great ones. I would encourage folks to even go back and listen to when you were just audio a year ago.
Yeah,
and actually, it's been over a year ago, but you can find all those on Spotify.
You can still argue that both of us have a face for radio, but that's a story for another day. So.
Well, that's just you. Yeah. All right. Well, grateful as always. Thank you so much. And
thank you, Todd.
I'm looking forward to the next 100.
Yeah, there you go.